Alright, so it's been a while since Zerf's underlings, also known as the Spriggan 12, were a hot topic, and even now it is slowly dying, so that's precisely why I've decided to make this video, so buckle up because today's topic is which Spriggan is the best written. I can already hear it, people are shouting at the top of their lungs that they're all garbage and fodder, whatever else people are branding them as nowadays, and to some extent I can agree with you, but also I have to be that guy and say fuck you, they're not all that bad. Most of them perhaps, but there are some of them that are really well written in their own right. Okay, so let's begin because I'm itching to get this off my chest. Let's begin with Eileen Belserion, who's also known as Ursa's biological mother. Now a lot of people don't like Eileen and I can understand why. I mean, her finale was pretty bad, however it wasn't terrible on her end. It were the ones she faced that made her look bad. Fact of the matter is that Ursa and E.N.D were the ones who were actually badly written in that fight, which caused Eileen's reputation to drop. However, from beginning to end she was a really well done character. Her identity from the moment she appeared made for an insane theory crafting session where we had guesses on her connection with Ursa, such as them being siblings, her being the future Ursa, and even the reality, which is of course that she's Ursa's mother. Her past was really fucking impressive, even if maybe a little plot convenient, but plot convenience is a theme that's existed in fairy tales since long before Alvarez's Empire arc. So it's not like she began that trend by any means. The suspense of her character was in full swing whenever she got screen time due to her reputation of being the ultimate woman when compared to August, who was the ultimate man. Eileen displayed many times why she was a force to be reckoned with. I mean, her enchantments almost defeated Mira Jane in her she-devil form. The little energy Mira Jane had remaining after that battle was left for Eileen to toy with. Of course, that was cut short by August. Had he not interrupted, Eileen would have showed us just what kind of fucked up individual she was even before the Ursa encounter. But ultimately what puts her off is her poorly written power scaling and sudden weakness against Ursa and E.N.D. Again, I don't blame Eileen for this really, but the fact that she was defeated so easily because of this, well, I can't really put her above some of the others. With that said, let's just move on to another Spriggan who's also not a badly written Spriggan. Brandish was a brilliant addition to the Spriggan 12. I know some people who hate Brandish, and to those I say fuck you too. Brandish's fights aren't where the writing excels though, well to some degree, but if I had to pick an area of focus, I'd say it comes down to her ideals and personality alone. Let's talk about her ideals, because this is where shit gets really good with Brandish. Unlike every other Spriggan, she's not remotely interested in this conflict that Zerf is so crazy about. She couldn't care less if they had peace, but as we all know, she also has a concept of loyalty to Zerf. At least she did, and this is where we get some pretty interesting character development. This development actually grows throughout the entire arc, which is pretty interesting. In particular, the fact that she gradually goes from wanting to kill Lucy to become friends with her, even if she doesn't want to admit it. I mean, the moment we learned that they had history was like the most epic shit, seeing as she was the first Spriggan that was given a connection with a member of Fairy Tale. Even if it wasn't a direct link between them, I mean, Lucy and Brandish didn't know each other, but their parents did. Despite that, Brandish eventually turns for the better as her loyalty to Zerf begins to fade, even if it's very slowly, and the moment both Nineheart and Demaria brands her a traitor, she flips within an instant and her mentality goes from being Zerf's pawn to fuck you guys, if you don't want me, I don't want you either. This is when you knew you had a really well written character on your hands, because at the end of the day she fulfilled her purpose, which was foreshadow back in Alcatacia, that is her homeland. She implied not being interested in the war, and while it wasn't too evident, she did in the end completely abandon Alvarez. Okay, let's talk about her personality, seeing as that's also quite big when it comes to her writing. Brandish is pretty fucking savage, let's put it that way. I think this is why she goes hand in hand with Demaria. But her savagery is a little different. I mean, this was first introduced during the bath scene with Brandish and Lucy, when she tells her to get in the tub or die essentially. I mean, you don't get that a lot nowadays, do you? Then she just pulls up the fucking cat ears. I mean, Brandish, how can she not be your waifu by now? She's really sweet, but you get that spoiled attitude from her if you don't comply. Except it's basically join me for fun or die where you stand, literally. Well, that or have your friend's mother kill yours, that's pretty bad too, as she will try and crush you by shrinking the house you're in. Do I honestly need to say more? Her writing is close to perfection. The one thing I didn't like with her is the end for her, at least as far as we know, which is that she has left with the shrunk Demaria. I'm one of those people who expected Brandish to join Fairy Tail at the end because it would have worked really well. Her being branded a traitor by her own people and having a guild to join right there and then. Come on, how could you not join it? But she didn't, so that's why I was a little disappointed of Brandish's exit. So she's not the best written Spriggan, but it's about to get real, boys and girls. Demaria Yesta, the War Maiden who has inherited the power of Chrono Yesta, the takeover ability of the Time God. Another female hits this list, and what can I say? Hiro has clearly showed that he loves his women. They seem to be written well compared to the males, so obviously what puts her so high above is the fact that she's probably the one with an insanely well done power scaling. While she did lose twice, both of those times was under extremely leveraged conditions. First time she lost to Wendy and Shelia, and at that time it took Ultier's brief return which saved Wendy and Shelia's butts. This in turn obviously granted Shelia third origin, which gave her the magic power that she would have gotten in the future one day, but as a result, this third origin completely destroyed her future as a wizard. So Demaria may have lost to them, but it cost Shelia her whole future as a wizard in the process, and Carla nearly died. Well, that and of course Shelia's magic is god-slaying to begin with, so the conditions were anything but equal. Before we get into the second loss, let's talk about Demaria in general, because even when she wasn't in a fight, she showed some really nice character. Obviously her relationship with Brandish is one of the best things I've seen in Fairy Tail. You get this kind of hate-love relationship between them. They act as if they despise each other, but in reality, among the Spriggans, Brandish and Demaria are just like Natsu and Grey, especially at the beginning of the series. And you can't possibly say that their relation was a bad one. It's one of the many reasons why Fairy Tail was a really enjoyable series for comedic reasons, even during moments where things were really intense and whatnot. I like to think of this as a reference because the similarity is so very clear. The difference is of course that at the end of the day, loyalty to Zerf was something that Demaria valued way higher than Brandish's friendship, and that actually made her a fucking fantastic character. Okay, let's get into Demaria's second loss, because like I said, both her losses are well deserved, and the second one, at least to me, was almost as good as her first loss. So obviously this is when Demaria is having Lucy and Natsu tied up in some kind of dungeon, and we see just how fucking savage this woman can really be as she's about to go through it, gouging Lucy's eyes out when BAM! Demaria is wiped the fuck out by Natsu, who apparently exploded all over the room off screen, resulting in Demaria's time magic to have absolutely no effect on him because of the influence of E.N.D. And this was a great scene because Demaria's loss was used to show us just how terrifying E.N.D. could be if fully awakened. Nothing could bypass that magic really, and yet a half-assed leakage of E.N.D.'s power alone was able to tear through it. And even after that, Demaria was still alive. Of course, that's when her story was more or less done, as she was cuffed by Brandish and the others. So as you can probably tell, I don't think she's a good written character simply because of her ability to fight, more or less the opposite. Her losses is what says a lot. Well, that and of course her personality alone. So how should I put this? To me personally, Demaria is without a doubt the best written out of all the Spriggan 12. There was no bullshit revolving her at all if you ask me. Both her losses were done well, and her casual appearances weren't bad at all during any given time. So then my subscribers are probably gonna ask me like, why do I favor Brandish so much? Well, being well written doesn't necessarily make a fan favorite, but Demaria is definitely way up there. I dare say that Brandish and Demaria are pretty fucking close. But Brandish does still win to me when it comes to who's my favorite. Well, that'll do it for today's video on my personal picks for which Spriggans are the best written ones. Not to be mistaken for my favorite Spriggans. Comment what you think down below. Do you agree? If you don't, please let me know your picks. And as always, if you did, please like this video if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you're new to my channel. This has been your favorite host Perm, and I'll see you soon.